What's up, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of my new podcast, The X Report. My name is Xavier, for those who aren't already aware, and I just wanted to start out by giving a little introduction of what I want this podcast to be. It's not your traditional podcast in the sense that I don't have a specific topic that this podcast is about, so every week it won't be me talking about the same thing. I call it the X Report because it's basically me giving my perspective on whichever topic I want to talk about that week. One week it could be current events, things happening in the world around us. And next week I might do a music episode, maybe a sports episode one week. Maybe one week is even an intellectual episode and I talk about some philosophy or some quotes like that. It's just really whatever strikes me for that week and what I want to share my perspective on. That'll be what the episode is for that week. And that was my thought behind the name, The X Report, because I'm out here basically giving a report on what I think about what's going on. For this first episode, I was actually thinking about keeping it light, maybe just doing a small introduction episode. But I figured why not go ahead and get into me doing some of the X Report. So one of the things that I think I'll be doing more and more as time goes on, I like to give my perspective on quotes or things that I read that really resonate with me. And I like to elaborate and give my perspective on it. And that's what I'll do for this first episode. The topic today is going to be wisdom. And the reason I thought about making this topic for this first episode is because of a quote that I saw yesterday that really stuck with me. And that quote was, "Wisdom doesn't come with age, it comes with experience." And when I first read that quote, it really had me thinking. Because used to think that age is what gave you wisdom. But looking at this quote, wisdom doesn't come with age, it comes from experience. Experience really does make the most sense. Because just aging up isn't going to give you wisdom. Wisdom is something that you get taught to by your life experiences or by listening to someone who's already had those experiences. Because I always considered knowledge and wisdom to be two separate things. Knowledge to me seems like something that you can, for like book smart, something that you can get out of a book. Math, English, those types of things are what you call knowledge. But wisdom isn't something that you can gather from a book. It's only two ways to really get wisdom, as I spoke on before. And that's by either having that experience yourself or by listening to someone who's already had that experience. And I think maturity also comes into play when we talk about wisdom, because to gain wisdom, you have to be mature to accept that wisdom. Me personally, I had a whole situation a few years ago where I should have listened to the wisdom that was imparted to me, but I thought I knew it all and I didn't. And it didn't work out for me. So just this past May, I graduated from LSU and I graduated with a degree in international studies. And for the international studies major, one of the things you have to do is take a foreign language. So when I first started at LSU in 2016, the foreign language that I wanted to take was French. But that foreign language was already full when I got there. Both of my parents told me, okay, you have to take 3 years of a foreign language when you're at LSU. So just take this first year off from a language and then try to get in French your second year, since that's the language that you want to be in. And it'll help. And since you want to be in it, you'll be more inclined to focus and put everything into that language. Me, though, I didn't want to listen. I thought I knew everything. I was 18. I wanted to just go ahead and get it over with. So I picked Italian. Long story short, Italian wasn't the right class for me. I didn't do well in Italian. I got a bad grade in it for the first semester. And it really set me back for the next semester. And the thing is, I should have just been able to take that wisdom that my parents gave me. Like, they're not too old at all. They're just in their 40s, and I'm 22 myself right now. So That's not really not that old at all. And the thing is, though, they've both been through college. They've both been in these situations before, meaning that they've had these experiences. They've had the wisdom to try to impart to me, tell me it's not that serious. You don't have to try to rush into anything. Just take this first year off from a foreign language and then try to get into the language that you want later. What I should have did was listen to them, but my maturity level wasn't at the required level. And that's one of the most things I think that wisdom really requires is a bit of maturity. A maturity to take in the wisdom from someone who's trying to give it to you. If I had listened, I probably would have been able to keep that class and that bad grade off my GPA, which affected me later on in my college career because I had to do a lot of work to bring that GPA up from that bad Italian grade. And the thing is, I ended up doing French the second year anyway. So if I had just listened and been a little bit more mature, I could have taken that wisdom in and it would have helped me. I have that wisdom now, but only because I didn't listen to what the wisdom that was trying to be given to me, and I went through that experience myself. So I took the hard way of gaining that wisdom. And wisdom is something that's been around since humanity started. And one of the things I like to look at is past philosophers, because I think looking at past philosophers is a good way to get wisdom also, because their teachings, their quotes, they stand the test of time. And two of the greatest philosophers, the greatest Greek philosophers, Socrates and Plato, they both had really good ideas on wisdom. And Socrates, for one, he considered wisdom to be the understanding that he only knows what he knows and that he doesn't pretend to know anymore. And I think that really jumps back to maturity as well. And using my example, I didn't know how Italian or how the college process was going to work when I was in it. But I pretended like I did, and I jumped into the Italian without actually knowing. If I had not pretended to know and taken the advice of people who had been in that situation before, things might have played out a lot better for me. And just to keep speaking on maturity, I feel that going from 18 to 22, my college career, I feel like I matured more then than I did from age 1 to 18. The maturity levels are strikingly different now. And I feel like even though I'm only 22, I barely have any wisdom. The experiences I had through college gave me the small bit of wisdom that I have. And just looking at Socrates' quote, that really drove home for me how maturity and wisdom seem to go hand in hand. And the other Greek philosopher I mentioned, Plato, his quote was, "To become wise yourself, or if you're incapable of that, let yourself be guided by one who is truly wise." And that just goes to show wisdom comes from two places, as I said before, either experiencing it yourself or listening to someone who's already got that experience. And the thing is, he said, even if you're incapable of it, listen to somebody. And being incapable of wisdom, I think everyone's capable of wisdom, but to be wise, you have to learn from the experiences that you have. The mistakes that you've made, they have to be learned from. If you just keep doing the same ones over and over, you haven't gained wisdom from that experience, almost rendering that experience useless. For every lesson you take, you have to hold that lesson. That's what gives you the wisdom. I really believe that wisdom is one of the most important things. I believe it's also it can be one of the hardest things to acquire, because like I said, it's not something that you can read in a book. It's not something that you can pick up and study per se. You have to be willing to listen, accept mistakes, and make sure that this doesn't happen again. So it's been about 10 minutes, which is what I'm going to try to keep my podcast episodes to, around 10, 12, maybe 15 minutes in the future, depending on how well it goes. But for a first episode, I think 10 minutes is pretty good. So for all my people on YouTube, hit the subscribe. I'll be coming back every week, trying to do episodes every Friday. I'm thinking that's going to be the best way to do it. Everyone who's following on SoundCloud for the audio, hit a follow. I'll be dropping them both on SoundCloud and YouTube. So I'm really looking forward to see where this podcast goes. For this first episode, I just wanted to test it out, feel the water, maybe gave a little bit of what I think about wisdom, one of the most important qualities I think a person can have. So yeah, just let me know how and also for sure give feedback both on YouTube, SoundCloud. I'll be having my social medias in the description of the video, so if anyone wants to contact me there, go ahead, leave some feedback. I want this to be an interactive type of podcast, not just me. Like, I'll have my own ideas, but if someone else has a topic they want to give me, that'll be cool too. I can give my perspective on that. It'll be better. I think the podcast would be better if it's an interactive type of podcast where my listeners can make suggestions as well. So thanks everybody for listening to the first episode. And let's see where it takes us.